Hello and welcome to Spanish Help video number 2. Today's topic is irregular preterites. That is to say, verbs that happen to be irregular in the preterite tense. So, let's continue. There are 4 main groups that we're going to study. Now, obviously, I must say that the preterite tense has a lot of verbs that are irregular. However, if you have me in my Spanish class, we attack the problem in a slightly different way. Okay? So, this video will be slightly different from some of the more traditional videos you might be able to find online or the way that people teach the preterite tense. With that said, however, let's go ahead and talk about it in sort of the Allegrian fashion that we'll do. One of the important things to know about the preterites is to be able to identify what they are and to organize those preterites into groups. And I've done so as 4 main ways that will be responsible for understanding, especially in the lower levels of Spanish. The 4 groups are what I call cargarzars, which is just another fancy way of saying verbs that end in either car, gar, or zar, hence cargarzars. Then irregular third person, meaning that verbs are irregular only in the he, she, it, or the they form. The 2 verbs that are special, dar and ver, we'll see why in a moment. And then, of course, the main ones that are irregular stem changers, and that triangle simply means change, like from your chemistry, delta change. Let's begin to look at each of the groups individually. The first groups we're looking at are the cargarzars. And there are basically 2 main things you need to know. The first and most important is that cargarzars, that is, verbs that end in car, gar, or zar, are only irregular in the yo form. Only if you want to say I are these verbs irregular. For you, she, we, they, the verbs are totally regular and are conjugated the correct way. If you don't understand what I mean when I say a verb is regular or irregular, go ahead and check out my video, What Do I Mean When I Say a Verb is Irregular? Continuing on. Here's what we need to remember. There's a spelling change, which is part of what makes them irregular. If the verb ends in car, the spelling change to say I did it will move to que. For gar, gue. For zar, the spelling changes to ce. And please notice accents are on all of these. Beep, beep, right there. So just for example, if I have the verb tocar and I want to say I played the guitar, since tocar means to play, I see that it's a cargarzar, it ends in car, so to say that in the preterite I would spell it as toque. Oops, I apologize for that, with an accent, thus I played. The second group are what we call irregular third persons. And conveniently, there are 3 main groups that we deal with when we're talking about irregular third person. Again, to remind ourselves, third person simply means the she, he, or it form or the they form. Third person singular, third person plural. The first type of verbs are what we call e to i's, which simply means that the e in the word spell changes to an I. And the classic example is the verb pedir. To say I asked for, it's totally regular, pedi. But to say he asked for or they asked for, the E changes to an I, hence pidio and pidieron, not pedio or pedieron. That's the area where they're always irregular. And you'll see this constantly on my own tests or things like the National Spanish Exam, or even the older versions of the AP Spanish language exam. Not so many questions like that on the newer versions, at least not that I've seen. The second group are what we call I to Ys. Leer, to read, caer, to fall, oír, to hear. These are examples of I to Y stem changers. These verbs are irregular in the preterite, in the he, she, and in the they form. Let's use leer as an example. I read is totally accurate, L-E-I with an accent. But to say she read, L-E-Y-O. To say they read, L-E-Y-E-R-O-N. The I that used to be here for these endings changes to a Y. Hence, this group is called the I to Y changers. The final group are O to U changers, which, if you're paying attention for the last minute and 53 seconds, you realize, that must mean the O in these words, dormir, to sleep, and morir, to die, must change in the he, she, and the they form. And lo and behold, I slept, dormi, but she slept, durmió. They slept, durmieron, and this should be an R, not an E. Any case. Moving on. Dar and ver, two very simple verbs. I've put them together because they have the exact same endings. Iste, io, imos, ieron. The only difference is that one starts with a D and one starts with a V. I'll let you figure out which letter goes with which verb. Finally, we come to irregular stem changers. Now, this is a larger list of words, and I'm only going to simply begin the conversation. I have a video that deals specifically with these particular irregulars that you can look at later for more information. What we do need to realize is that there are basically three kinds. Decir, venir, and hacer represent each kind. For example, decir, which means to say, venir, which means to come, and hacer, which means to make or to do. These are going to be, these are going to be irregular in the preterite. Now, the first thing we need to understand is that they all share the same endings. What changes is their stem, hence irregular stem changers. Okay? Please notice this asterisk here for aron. This one applies only to the verb decir and verbs like it, which we call J-stem changers. And J-stem changers simply means that when we conjugate these verbs, decir automatically turns into dij. Okay? It will be dij for I, for you, for he or she, for we, and for they. So to say I said, dije. To say you said, dijiste. To say she said, dijo. These, of course, all keep the dij, and it's the endings that change. Now, venir will simply become vin, and hacer will become hic. So simply take these stems and add them to the front of the particular ending for whoever you want to say. One last note of caution, however, with hacer, it too becomes ithe, it becomes ithe, ethiste, etc. But when you get to say he or she made something, it becomes a little different. The hic changes to an hiz, and it becomes etho. So that's definitely one extra irregularity that you'll need to pay attention to. Good luck, and we'll be working with these pretty much for the rest of the year.